Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to the bedroom. Yeah, I don't normally make videos like this, and I don't even know how to make this video without coming off like a creepy fanboy, but I feel like I have to at least try, since hopefully it will give me the closure that I need to move past my weird obsession. And it was actually a fellow content creator named IvaMarin, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who inspired me to do this in the first place, so I'll leave a link to his video down in the description. Just fair warning, it is in Russian, so if you don't like reading subtitles...
Well, too fucking bad, you're gonna do it anyway.
Sorry. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get this started already. So, Jordan Underneath. Where do I even begin? To me, there was something about his channel when I discovered it way back when that was just perfect.
Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
And I had discovered it at just the right time because I was going through a very dark time in my life to the point where I was even considering... Well, I'm not gonna go there. Long story short, in 2016, me and my friend were going through a really tough time. Someone close to us lost their life, and I needed some sort of coping mechanism to keep my head on straight. I prefer not to go into too many details, so I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I first discovered Jordan through a collab he did with Kid Icarus, and I immediately fell in love with his aesthetic, his sense of humor, the way he talked about things, just... it all resonated with me deeply. Next thing you know, I went over to his channel and went down a rabbit hole that I could not climb out of. It was from that point on that he had pretty much become my favorite content creator, and just someone I looked up to and related to. And, you know, there it was, the thing that I needed to help me through that time in my life. See, at that time, there were pretty much 3 ways that I coped. Video games, anime, and video game reviews. And that type of content was pretty much at the height of its popularity and still going strong. So, needless to say, aside from my own personal issues, it was a good time to be alive. And Jordan's content very much fit the bill. But his content was different. It was unique. Sure, he did game reviews, but the way he did it was so much different from everyone else. There was not a single channel in existence that was like his. Well, besides maybe Baptism on Fire, but that's a different story. But anyway, his channel was very dark and edgy. And when I say edgy, what I really mean is dark in tone, but still oddly wholesome at the same time. And like I said, his content mainly involved video games, specifically horror games and like RPG Maker games, and even occasionally nostalgic games from his childhood. But he also branched out and did other things like, you know, cartoon reviews, and he also talked about movies and books and, you know, other stuff. And he even occasionally made music, some of which you're most likely hearing in the background of this video. His channel also had a strong emphasis on mental health awareness, and he even had characters, all of which represented various emotions, like Sad Jordan, who represented depression, and of course my personal favorite, Skeleton Jordan, who I even parody on occasion. Spooky, scary skeletons send shivers down your spine. Creepy skulls will shock your soul and seal your doom tonight. Ole! Or something, I don't know. But there came a time when his content completely changed. And at that point, I and many others felt betrayed. But there's one very important thing people have to understand, and that's that he is a human being. Not a machine made to sit there and pump out the same thing over and over again. You know, people change, people evolve, their interests change, their passions change. And that's what was happening in real time. And unfortunately, our little Jordan was growing up and becoming his own person. And he's even since admitted that Jordan Underneath was mainly just a character and most likely hardly even resembled who he actually was as a person, so yeah, that's a thing. The thing is, I still liked what he made because it still carried on that weird vibe that his channel was known for. What started off as a weird review channel became a weird artsy-fartsy channel with, you know, puppet videos that I can really only describe as, like, demented Sesame Street. And then that evolved into this claymation series called Earthy Boy, which eventually evolved into animations. Which is the last thing that he made, and as of me making this video, he hasn't posted for 2 years, and it's unclear if he ever will post again. But if he decides not to, that is up to him, and we need to respect that choice. And he did very briefly go back to gaming content that was, like, more reflective of who he really is, but he even eventually abandoned that, so it seems that all hope is lost for that to ever be a thing again. And at this point, he's presumably off, you know, living a private life with his girlfriend, I think? Don't quote me on that. Details of this guy's life have been kept mostly hush-hush, and what he's told people may have been an outright lie, or at least an exaggeration, so needless to say, this man is a mystery. And that's okay. I think it's about time we all just left this man alone and let him live in peace. As for me, I've been sitting here trying to find some way to fill that void. And there is one channel that almost does, called NitroRad. And that's because he talks about a lot of the same content, but his gimmick is more that he's like, you know, the radical cool guy. The best way to put it is, you know, NitroRad is to Sonic as Jordan is to Shadow. And as a lot of you may know, a lot of Jordan's old content got deleted. I had actually made my own archive channel before Jordan himself told me to take it down, or at least, you know, get rid of some of the content, and he ended up making his own archive called Jordan Underneath Archive, where you can find a lot of his older videos. And I had repurposed my archive into a Jordan fan channel with some Jordan-inspired content, and I had even encouraged, you know, fans to talk amongst themselves in the comments, but that wasn't really going over as well as I might have hoped, and at this point, it's probably about time I just move on and do my own thing as well. Everyone else has, so I'm the only one who still seems to be stuck in the past, so I think it's time we all move forward. I do still want to make content that's, like, similar to what Jordan did, at least, you know, in the fact that it would be, like, game reviews and gaming discussions, but it's really hard to do that these days because YouTube has changed so much, and that type of content is not nearly as popular as it was. A lot of the OG game reviewers have moved on, And pretty much the only ones who even try to make the same content that they used to are, James Rolfe, Peanut Butter Gamer, and Pro Jared. And JonTron still mostly makes the same type of content, at least when he actually posts his videos. He just doesn't talk about games anymore. He talks about pretty much everything but games. Which is cool. I'm fine with that. And then there's Scott the Wise, who came out of literally nowhere and, as it stands, seems to be one of the only highly successful gaming channels. I don't know what he's doing, but it works. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say. This video was kind of rushed, and I don't know if I really did the subject justice, but at least I can say that I did it. And I don't care how many people end up watching this, just that I was able to put it out there and get at least some of my thoughts across, and hopefully finally move on from this. And maybe I'll make a follow-up if people think that maybe I should go a little more in detail. I don't know if I'd really want to do that, but if anybody really wants me to, I could try. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. See ya.